Hi, everybody. Okay, so we are on 1,778 days since Richard was forcibly removed from his barracks room and his life was taken from him brutally. And so let's see if everything is working. Today was an amazing day. Happy birthday, U.S. Army. Happy birthday, U.S. Army. The celebrations were amazing. They were just so amazing. Um, we would go up to into DC and watch the tattoos, which is like military parades, the fife and drum corps. It really such an honor to watch. Our military with esprit de corps and Richard's father, Lieutenant Colonel retired, Robert Halliday. He was so honored to serve a year with the Old Guard. Normally it's just a year. You have to be selected. You have to have a very, very good record. Of course, he's a hero. He has an amazing record. And he was chosen to serve with the Old Guard. And wow, what an amazing experience that was for me as well as for him. Um, I have a great love for history, as everyone knows, and this is before they really changed Mount Vernon, which is the estate of George Washington. And I would go with the girls. This is before the boys. To Mount Vernon to picnic all the time, and I'd stop by and occasionally and see Rob with the Old Guard at his in his office. But I just love Mount Vernon. It was just amazing, amazing place. It is an amazing, amazing place. And everyone should go there because when you see someone's home, when you see where they're buried, when you see where their loved ones are buried, when you see where uh, all the workers, where they worked, what kind of condition did they live in, how they were treated, the books. George Washington was a prolific writer, well, a recorder. He was a prolific recorder. He was a farmer, and he just recorded everything from when a tree was planted, where it was planted, um, to every little things like that, to all the very, very important things that he did to make this country uh, independent. And and he was under so much attack, and people don't realize that George Washington had it very, very difficult. Very difficult. He had it, it's very similar like President Trump. He had many, many people that did not want to separate from the King of England. They did not want to separate. They were, it's kind of like the story in the Bible of Sodom and Gomorrah when Lot left, right? Lot was leaving with his wife and two daughters. And, the angel said, "Don't look back, don't look back." And Lot's wife looked back and she turned into a pillar of salt. And that's the hard thing about, and you can't even really, I don't want to say blame her. You can absolutely understand her. Many times, even if the place is not a good place, you look back because there are memories there. There is potential there. There is things that you don't really want to leave, that you leave behind because you must, right? And so um, yeah, that is a really great analogy. Is sometimes we can't look back at our roots, We need to look at where we are. And that is so hard for me because I just love history so much. But you have to look forward. You can't forget to look forward where you're going. And at that time, it was the United States. It was the United States. It was America. And George Washington was fighting for America, putting America first, not England, not Great Britain, no, not Ireland, not France, not Europe. He was putting America first. And he had many that wanted to hold on to that connection. And I even had that feeling when we decided to homeschool, when the girls were in school. And I was just really torn because I didn't want to sever that connection, but I knew that I had to. I knew that I had to do it, that I was called to do it. Not everyone's called to do it. I was. And so, but it was very, very difficult. It wasn't like something easy. Yeah, I had a lot of tears over it, but I did it, and what a blessing, and what a blessing, and because George Washington did the same thing, I don't think that it was easy for him to say, no, we're going to be independent. We're going to be independent. We're going to take care of ourselves. Um, I think that was really, especially with all of the harassment, I mean, they even there was mutiny against him, and there was real financial challenges. I mean, our military sure didn't look as good then as they do now. They were barefoot and their clothes were almost falling off of them. Um, it was so they just didn't have supplies. So he had a lot of challenges, and to see how far our army has come, and of course we have the mutiny still, we have the challenges still, and we see that in Richard's case. And even watching the parade today, the Golden Knights, one of the perfusionists, with Rob, Mike Davidson, he was a Golden Knight, and and gifted Rob a big poster um, of the Golden Knights. So yeah, just a lot of great memories watching the parade today and seeing how far we've come. Even within with like the likes of Sean Bernabe tainting our military, literally tainting it, and putting our nation at risk. He needs to be removed from our military. He needs to be stripped from the uniform and any benefits because he's a traitor. And the same thing with Captain David Park. The same thing. And he's a West Pointer. Park is a West Pointer. And he absolutely betrayed his commission. Totally betrayed his commission. He's a real loser and a real criminal. And the same thing with First Lieutenant Micah Brown. Just absolutely a real loser. And he's also a West Pointer. Betrayed his commission. And Jonathan Caleb Ambrose was a West Pointer. He didn't finish. I don't know what happened. Maybe someone can tell us what happened. We can only imagine, but he didn't finish. But he did attend West Point. So, this is the challenges. And these challenges aren't anything new. It's not like, oh my gosh, this happened. No, it needs to be addressed. And I think George Washington flogged. I think that at that time you could still do the flogging for these traitors. But I'll leave that to President Trump And I know that he's going to address, because when he part of this celebration today, which was so amazing, it just because Rob was a physician assistant, you know, when um, when I met him, he was first armored, so all the tanks and everything, and then of course he went ADA, and he was deployed with ADA, the air defense. We were so fortunate to get a broad picture of the military. Um, I was very fortunate to be to be his wife in the military, and to see all the different aspects of our military. So yeah, I got off track, but yeah, today seeing President Trump um, bring in, give the oath, swear in the new recruits into the military, into the army, and to read that, some of it, you just, in our situation, you just weep. It's just so emotional, and I'm absolutely serious about that. The streams of tears come out. It's not like just one tear. Streams of tears. Just water comes out, right? You just weep. And because of the betrayal of such a beautiful military. How can you betray this when this is why this is so important, to see this all together, to understand what our country is and who we're defending, to see them all. It's so beautiful. Um, yeah. And to understand that you have these traitors that would betray that to serve foreign enemies, domestic enemies. They're absolutely traitors. And we just cannot even tolerate it. We can't even tolerate it. Look at what we have. We cannot tolerate them being being betrayed. We just can't. There's so many that are doing their duty, and there's so much at stake. And so we absolutely need to have accountability. And I think when we watched the vice president today, yeah, that's why I'm coming on a little late, because it takes time to recover from watching all of this. And so together, I think that our president and our vice president absolutely have shared a message today that they're coming after the traitors, that they are absolutely going to hold them accountable, and that needs to be done. That has to be done. They would be terrible leaders if they didn't do it. They have to hold these traitors accountable to the fullest. To the fullest. And I think that was the message of today, of this birthday, to show the American people who we are, and what we are protecting, and that we have traitors amongst us, and that they need to be held accountable for what they've done. So, and then also to inspire the new recruits. So help me God. So help me God. To inspire them to do their duty was just amazing. So, we have breaking news, of course. Every day is breaking news, and it totally overshadowed by the events of today. the beautiful events of today. So, but you know, this Kyle Estwick, this Kyle Estwick, the exotic dancer, but the fuel distributor, um, in connection with Richard's car, in connection with the Chaviras, in connection with Nidal Baem, in connection with Bob Moore, in connection with this criminal group that targeted Richard and ended his life and covered it up. So Kyle Estwick's name becomes the latest name added to this list. And, there's so much fraud in all of this that, we have to check and check and check. But he has absolutely those connections. And and the fuel distribution, living on, he lived near the airport on near Biggs, but in the military area. So that breaking news is because that information, and when we are able, we will share it with you, leads to contractors. Okay. And when we are at liberty, because there's so many ongoing investigations right now. Okay. So many ongoing investigations that, when we're at liberty to tell you those, we will. But I can tell you that everything about Richard's car is also being revealed. And we're almost at 5 years. It should never have taken this long. Right? And just that we're having to do the investigation, when there is over 15, I counted 21. So let's, I just always say over 15, because of Ted Cruz saying, there's over 15. So Senator Ted Cruz said it, but I counted 21. But there's over 15 agencies involved in this. And here we are, investigating Richard's car, finally getting answers for this vehicle. And it is, wow, y'all, it is one big hurricane, so it's a mess. It's a mess. It's a lot of tampering. And they call it all kinds of different things. And there's court cases involved in this. But there's a lot of fraud surrounding what they did with Richard's vehicle. Okay. And the connections. And it also confirms that they were targeting Richard. Okay. They were absolutely, and this is the thing. So Richard is a young soldier. He gets in, he's trying everything his hardest. He wants mentors. He's the distinguished honor graduate. The reason why I push that so much, that he's and he was a distinguished honor graduate, #1 for basic training and AIT, is to give you the picture of his mind. His mind was obedience to the Constitution, to his leadership. Even very dirty and criminal First Sergeant Jay Pollan had to admit that Richard, if you asked him to do anything, he would do it without any kind of complaint. And, he even had to admit that. So I just want to give you a picture of who Richard was. He was trying to do everything right at 100%. And he depended on his leadership, and his leadership was compromised. They were compromised with the Mexican cartel. They were compromised with serving foreign and domestic enemies of this country. They were compromised so much so that they would betray their commission, their West Point commission. They were so they were so compromised that they betrayed their stars. I mean, these are 4-star generals, 3-star generals, 2-star generals, 1-star generals. These are, so this is who Richard is supposed to look up to. And where could he go? This is a compromised CID. This is a compromised IG. This is a compromised FBI. This is a compromised Texas Ranger. This is a compromised chain of command. This is a compromised El Paso Police Department. This is a compromised um, 15 plus agencies, ATF, Homeland Security. It was so compromised. And where was a young soldier that wanted a mentor, that was ready and wanting and willing to be obedient, to follow orders, to defend the Constitution? Where was he to go when there were so many violations around him that were harming children in the worst ways, the worst type of crimes against children? And this is what Leilani Hart confessed to in her affidavit, her notarized affidavit that was in the hands of the CID and the FBI. And the FBI, turned it into a file. They accepted it. And it was the worst crimes against children. And it absolutely implicated First Lieutenant Dallas Hart, which was Richard's platoon leader. And so even he was compromised. And so they absolutely targeted Richard. They surrounded him. They were absolutely ruthless. And so what, you know, um, this cannot be tolerated. Just cannot be tolerated. That our young volunteer sons and daughters join the military and have nowhere to go, that they are surrounded by mutinous traitors to our beautiful country. Yeah. For personal gain, criminal trafficking. I mean, so they are accessories to murder so many because of the criminal trafficking. And you saw that I posted um, the woman that had the truckload of migrants right behind the mattresses, and they were desperate to have water. Um, they could have died back there, and they had children back there. They had children back there, and by the looks of how it went, it didn't look like they were thinking about the children first. The older people, it didn't look like they were thinking about the children first. And this is the thing. Richard was absolutely surrounded by traitors. at the highest level. Um, and I know that President Trump understands that because he's been surrounded by traitors. This is at the highest level. And evidence confirms, and I just tell it like it is. E- Evidence confirms that they targeted Trump. They targeted the president. And the reason why they targeted Richard is because the president um, was investigating. He was doing what he did today, the most marvelous thing, putting America first. He was putting America first, and so was Richard, and that's why they were targeted. And that's not me. That's not my opinion. That is absolutely what evidence shows and confirms. So, the ridiculousness of this king thing, this no king or whatever. I mean, uh, are you kidding me? This country doesn't have a king. It's just such a joke. It's such a joke. And this from the people that, without one vote, just brought in Kamala Harris. I mean, uh, are you kidding me? They are such a joke. They have no logic skills. They need to go back to school. They need to go to classical education and do their grammar over again and their logic over again, their rhetoric and their debate, because they sure didn't learn it. It's like the lost tools of education. Yeah. The lost tools of learning. Yeah. They don't have logic skills. I mean, it's just no kings. What are you talking about? And so they're just ridiculous. And this today, I think it was a real um, good message from President Trump, having a long discussion um, with the president of Russia. Sorry, Putin. Um, to end these wars. To end these wars, and let's do something productive instead of destructive. And let's save these migrants from being, just like Richard was surrounded. These migrants, they think, oh, okay, I'm going to get all this free stuff or whatever, but they're falling into a trap. They're falling into a trap. Why these billionaires? This is what really is, riddle me this. Why is a billionaire spending organizing, so taxpayer money, because it's taxpayer money, going to these NGOs, funding these NGOs to give money to these migrants and legal aid and housing and, you know, all of that, um, to be illegal. To be illegal. Why don't these billionaires and all their wisdom and all their power and all their money, why don't they help these individuals come into the country legally? I mean, they're giving them legal aid right now anyway. They're giving them housing costs and money and yeah, monthly stipends, you know, and why don't they work to get them into this country legally? Why illegally? And I think it's because then they um, take advantage of them. They can hold that against them. It's like a form of blackmail. It's compromising them. They're compromising the people. the people that want to come over. Yes, a lot of them are criminals, yeah, because they, and they willingly are compromised. And then a lot of them are not criminals, and then they make them into criminals by bringing them in the country illegally. And then they're compromised. I can turn you in. I can do this to you. I can do that to you. And so they can control them, be it for human trafficking or be it for cheap labor. It's just really a slavery 2.0, right? It's slavery 2.0. Um, and and if you really study slavery 1.0, you absolutely know that it costs a lot of money to bring the slaves into the country, a lot of money to house them. They were even given spending money. People don't understand unless they go back and read um, um, George. Of course, George Washington's records, they really expose it. Gunston Hall, I'm thinking about Gunston Hall, George Mason. George Mason writes, his foreman wrote all about that. It's very interesting how expensive it was. And like the Irish slaves that, or the Irish that didn't come as quote unquote slaves, um, their conditions were really bad, and so many died. And that, yeah, it was just so, and I'm just telling you what's in the records if you go read the records. But this 2.0, they're doing the same thing. They're compromising these people, giving them no future, no, because, they're in debt. They have to pay for their um, coming into the country illegally, and they're in the hands of these bullies. I mean, anyone that stuffs people behind mattresses are just inhumane jerks. And then to bring them illegally, that makes them double jerks. So, yeah, they need to all leave and then apply legally to come into the country. It needs to be very controlled so that when they come into the country, they can breathe relief. They don't have to look over their shoulders. They don't have to use fake social security numbers. They don't have to be bullied by people that made them into criminals. They don't have to do what they say. They don't have to be paid cheap labor. They're free then, right? They're free. So, yeah, I just think it's very obvious. The bad intentions of these people that, oh, the Annunciation House uh, funding, that came from El Paso Community Foundation. El Paso Community Foundation gave over $200,000 to the Annunciation House. And it's a mess. It's a total mess. So those are ongoing investigations. We are privy to that because we're part of that case. Um, and I can tell you it's a mess. And it really, um, when you're part of a case like that, all the little details are most of the little details, some of the even some of the little details, it really reveals how ruthless and how inhumane these these billionaires are for personal gain, right? They're just Scrooges, right? They're just Scrooges. They just want to count their little gold coins on their table. Of course, that's not how it is now. It's like Bitcoin and, you know, uh, contracts and property and all water rights or water control, being part of the water mafia. It's just a little bit different today. But, um, Yeah, so I just wanted to give you the breaking news. It's kind of overshadowed by today's birth and Flag Day events. But yeah, everything is coming together with Richard's car and, with his phone too. But the car is a big deal because there's a lot of fraud involved, and the name is Kyle Estwick. Kyle Estwick, who was living on Fort Bliss, um, a distributor, but also a an exotic dancer. Okay, and I don't like that word, exotic dancer. A stripper, a male stripper. I mean that would be. Um, so that really. Uh, were they best friends uh, with Belen Rocha? Were they best friends with Leilani Hart? Were they best friends with Dallas Hart? I mean, because he liked football too. So this is a lot of fraud, and when we are able to tell you because of the investigations going on, we will absolutely tell you more of those details because people have been asking us for years about Richard's car, and so now it's finally coming out. So thank you so much, and please thank you Anicia for coming on, and thank you Danielle for coming on. And it's just been an amazing day and emotional day, an emotional day, but a really happy one to see our military like that again, and to see those the singers and the fireworks, and to see that again. President Trump just does it right. He just does it right. That was magnificent. And I don't care. Oh, even Fetterman, Senator Fetterman, isn't he a senator? He said, I don't care if you're on the left or the right. That was absolutely beautiful. And every one of our sons and daughters in the Army need to be celebrated. And the Army needs to be celebrated today. And our country needs to come together. And, that was just so beautiful because that's exactly what this kind of parade, this kind of bringing everyone together does. It brings us together as Americans. And it's been a long time since we've had that feeling. It was amazing. So, and that's why it was emotional. It was really a happy emotion. And it was absolutely to us and to many other victims of the last few years, uh, um, many years, to give us a message that um, these enemies, these traitors, are going to be held accountable. So that was another message that we got, and that is absolutely necessary. So we're going to hold them to it. We don't want to keep on just getting messages. We want the actual accountability, and we want our sons' remains. So, so that was a very powerful day. Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for sharing. And I'm happy that things are getting kind of, well, President Trump gave us a clear message today that the Israel Iran war is just that. And he hopes that they solve it real quick. They solve it real quick, and that the Russian Ukraine war is just that. And he hopes that they solve it real quick, and that he has no intention of dragging us into a new war. Um, so I hope that that is the case. I'm really praying that that is the case because really, um, Mexico is our biggest threat. Mexico, because it's right there in El Paso. It's right there in El Paso, y'all. It's the cartel. And it is, until El Paso is no longer a failed city, we have our work cut out for us here and in our military too to hold these traitors accountable. I want to see um, Sean Bernabe. He needs to be court-martialed. Mealy, McConville, Garrett, so many. Donna Martin absolutely need to be court-martialed. So we have our work here at home, and we don't need any new distractions. They can handle that too. And I think that was all deceptive anyway. I think it's a power struggle, deceptive, you know. Um, anyway, so thank you so much. God bless you, and I will be back.